Hey y'all, I only got like probably maybe 8 more minutes left before I have to pick up this other load because I'm grinding. But to the person who left me this message, talk about how about you told me to go back to my husband that committed crimes against me and you was married to a narcissistic for 3 years. Either two things, this can't be a real comment. Either you two got their goons out for me because you got moderators that like to stir up the pot, or it got to be either my husband or somebody he knows that would leave a comment like that. But nevertheless, if it's some random woman that's upset because of the man that she married, let me just address this situation. I never told any woman out here to go back to a husband that's acting like a fool and a nut. Okay, if your husband is beating the brakes out of you, you got to be very smart in this situation. You leave. Jesus said to remain unmarried or reconcile. If your husband is not willing to repent of his sins for committing the crimes against you, beating the brakes out of you, disrespecting you, doing whatever he's doing, if he hasn't changed, and you know what I mean by changed, mean giving his life over to Christ, repenting and shown himself worthy enough to be the husband that Jesus said to love your wife like Christ loved the church, then you need to remain unmarried or you reconcile. I never told anybody that as long as your husband is beating the brakes out of you, then you be stupid and you sit around for the beating. You put your running shoes on. You ask God to give you peace. Now let's talk about the whole narcissist comment. You married a narcissist for 3 years. First of all, boo, I don't need any woman on here or you to vouch who I married. Because when I walked down the aisle, I did it on my own, whether he was narcissistic or not narcissistic. But that's somebody I became one flesh with. So hold your brakes on that one, okay? Hold your brakes on that one. The time that I was with my husband was a good man until he started to go through some turbulence. And that was right before we got a divorce. That's why I was so... What happened? I'm one of those women that was dealt with a runaway husband. But nevertheless, how many years am I now? 7 years. I'm not complaining. I'm not whining. I'm not crying. Please put your big girl drawers on. Put your grown stuff on. You walk down the aisle. When you marry somebody, they're not perfect. Humans are not perfect. Okay? You could say, well, that this person say they were saved. It's a lot of people that marry preachers. Still, the preacher went ahead and did some foul stuff to the wife. But the Bible does say if you marry another, you commit adultery. So y'all just real pissed. If you already dealing with a man that's committing crimes against you, what makes you think that the other man is not going to commit crimes against you? And you know it ain't going to be a blessing anyway because the one who committed crimes against you is still alive. So what is it to you that I married if I married a narcissistic man? You sitting up here throwing stones and you in a glass house and it's broken up too. It's like, okay, we both married somebody that ain't doing what God told them to do. So what's your point? What's your point? You gonna tell me to go back? No, I'm just saying that if you marry another, you commit adultery and you going to hell. You could do whatever you want to do. You could do whatever you want to do. You married a narcissistic man, so yeah, whatever you want to call it. If he is narcissistic, so that's my decision. That's who I married back in 2012. I didn't think my husband was going to switch up like a 10-speed on me, and I'm sure you didn't think your husband was going to do the same either. So get in line. Cue the violins because you and your feelings. See, when you over it, you're not even tripping off your past anymore. If the person is not doing what God is telling them to do, then already the person is disobeying God. Jesus said to love your wife. Love your wives like Christ loved the church. If your husband is committing crimes and beating the brakes out of you, he is already disqualified. It doesn't mean he's disqualified from being your husband, but he's already sinning against you. He's sinning against God. And the biggest punishment is going to come from God, not from you. The biggest punishment is when your husband goes straight to freaking hell. And there's a lot of people, husbands, that went to hell. Now, Mona didn't say your husband beating you, you supposed to sit in the house and get beat like some daggone slave. I didn't say that. I said if you marry another, you commit adultery. And anyone who marries your disrespectful, foul husband that committed crimes against you, they commit adultery as well. So, I mean, like I said, I ain't got time for this. I got stuff to do. You were married to a narcissist for 3 years. Good afternoon. You were married to a narcissist for 3 years. I'm like, at 3 years? Yeah, you're right. I was. So I'm like, thanks for counting those 3 years. But the 3 years that I was with my husband, he was cool. I mean, he worked. And when he worked, I got the check. We kept a clean house. We went places. We went out to dinner. Everything was cool. We did our music stuff. Stuff was cool for 3 years. It was right, I want to say, 3 months before our divorce of those 3 years is when my husband started acting nuts. And that's when I found out that he really does suffer from something. Now, I was going through a roller coaster back then and didn't understand why my husband did it. But look where I'm at right now. I don't have no smoke on me, and I went through the fire. God brought me out. I have plenty of things to smile about. I'm doing really, really well for myself. And I like the peace that comes with it. I like obeying God because he does not give me any time. I don't have any curses. No calamity has fell in my lap. I have obeyed God, and yet you sit up here, you think it's cute to talk down about my husband. I didn't give you permission to call my husband a narcissist. Even if I did, I didn't give you permission to call him that. So hold your brakes. Pump your brakes. Stay in your lane. Pray for your husband. Because I forgave mine, and evidently you didn't forgive mine. But you don't need to forgive mine. Okay, years ago, I wished my husband to be hit by a bus so I could be free. I had to repent about those bad thoughts because those are bad thoughts. I shouldn't have thought that way. I had to ask God for forgiveness. I don't need you to be telling me what I did way back when. You trying to take me down memory lane, boo? I'm done with that. I have forgiven that. You need to forgive your husband too for the crimes that he committed against you. Jesus said to forgive and move along. And so your husband can repent and show himself worthy enough to be your husband that you signed up for. You did that on your own. Anyway, that's all I need to say. So forgive and forget. Or forgive, move on. But I'm good with my life. And I have, I'm sure my husband is doing very well with his. Because I do pray for him and ask that God send some good, godly, fearing people around here. But I'm not waiting on my husband. I'm not waiting to make things happen and do things until he show up on the scene. No. God has been blessing me and I'm not waiting for nobody. And I don't need you to bring up something that I made a decision. When I look at my daughter, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that her father helped create her. I don't need you to stamp anything. Stay in your lane. Deal with your own husband, your own actions. Go to God with it, okay? Go to God with it. Anyway, y'all have a blessed day.